Hi, everybody. Hi. Good afternoon. All right. So, the President and the First Lady continue to grieve the lives lost and livelihoods destroyed by the tragic wildfires that are burning communities in Southern California to the ground. Before I hand it over to FEMA Administrator Dean Criswell, who has been on the ground in California and will provide further details on the federal response, I wanted to take a moment to remind everyone in this room and who's watching at home that this is not about politics. This is about people. This is about humanity. People who have literally lost everything. Homes, schools, and businesses, entire communities burnt to the ground. Treasured artifacts like personal photos, precious family heirlooms, and other priceless belongings all reduced to rubble. And I know there's many of you, your colleagues out there, who are on the ground trying to cover all of the disastrous moments that we're seeing on the ground with this event. And I hope you all are being safe out there. We need to be thinking about Californians, their priorities, and how we can all come together to support them. From Maui to North Carolina to California, we have seen that these disasters do not discriminate. So it is on all of us to show these people, to show folks in California, some compassion as they are reckoning with an unimaginable disaster. While nothing can bring back what many have lost, the President and his administration are continuing to use every tool at our disposal to help fight these fires and ensure that the communities impacted are able to recover. The President has received regular briefings on the fires, and at his direction, his team has been in constant contact with their state and local counterparts from the day the fire started. Just last night, he spoke separately with Governor Newsom, Senator Schiff, Congressman Sherman and Lieu, Mayor Bass, and LA County Supervisors Solis and Barger to discuss the latest updates on the wildfires across Los Angeles. And earlier this week, the President was in California, where he received briefings from personnel on the ground and met with firefighters who are on the front lines of this response to ensure they have the resources they need. As soon as the fires broke out, FEMA approved fire management assistance grants to reimburse California for firefighting costs, and the President immediately approved the state's request for a major disaster declaration for California, allowing impacted communities and survivors to immediately access funds and resources to jumpstart their recovery. As you just heard from the President moments ago, we have made some progress over the last 24 hours. Overnight, local, state, and federal firefighters partially contained some of the largest wildfires. There is still a long way to go, but we will continue to be with the people of California every step of the way. Other actions the Biden-Harris administration has taken is to support local firefighting efforts include 5 U.S. Forest Service large air tankers operating in Southern California with an additional tanker en route, over 20 federal firefighting helicopters performing operations in the area in support of state and local firefighters. Additionally, 2 air firefighting system units are being deployed from each of the California and Nevada National Guards, and 10 Navy helicopters with water buckets are en route from San Diego. And Colorado is providing assistance from the mobilization of aviation assets as well as fielding of 50 engine companies to assist with firefighting on the ground. As always, we stand ready to provide further support as needed, and we urge residents in the affected areas to remain vigilant and heed the warnings of local officials, especially if you have been ordered to evacuate. And to everyone impacted by this tragedy, please remember that we see you, we are with you, and we will do everything within our power to get you the help that you need. With that, I will turn it over to the FEMA Administrator, Criswell. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Karine. Good afternoon, everybody. You know, I just want to start by telling everybody that has been impacted by these devastating fires that my heart is with each and every one of you. And I know that you continue to face these fires as they are still working to bring them under control. And unfortunately, this will probably be a life-changing event for so many of you. But FEMA is here along with our entire federal family to help you through this recovery process. We are going to continue to support the state and the local jurisdictions, the local first responders, as they continue to try to contain this fire and eventually extinguish this fire. I arrived on the ground yesterday, as Karine said, at the direction of the president. I had an opportunity to meet with Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass. We discussed what their immediate needs were, as well as began the conversation about what their recovery needs are going to be. The governor, the mayor, and I had an opportunity just before this to also brief the president and the vice president about what their concerns are, about what their needs are going to be, and provided an update on the current status of the firefighting operations. Yesterday, I also had an opportunity to receive briefings from the incident command posts at the Palisades fire as well as the Eaton fire. And I think the most important thing that I want to make sure I continue to get across to everyone is this situation is still very dangerous. It is still very dynamic. The winds have died down today, but as I just got a weather briefing at the county EOC, the winds are going to increase again in the coming days. And so people still need to stay vigilant. They need to listen to their local officials. They need to heed their advice so they can keep themselves and their families safe. I also want to just take a minute to commend all of the amazing and heroic work that the firefighters are doing around the clock to fight these fires. They have been working night and day. I had a chance to speak with several of them, some of them whose homes have also been lost or their families have had to evacuate. Yet they still show up every day supporting their communities, trying to keep them safe. And I just want to say thank you. I want to thank all of them for their heroic efforts because they are making a difference. Now, while the National Interagency Fire Center continues to provide resources to support CAL FIRE and the Los Angeles County and City Fire Departments, FEMA is also supporting the recovery efforts. We're supporting those that have been impacted by this fire. I even met with the SBA administrator here just briefly, who is also here to support them, businesses and individuals that have been impacted by these fires. With the quick major disaster declaration, residents can now register and begin their recovery journey. Some of the immediate things that we can provide to them are to cover the costs that they're incurring as they have been evacuated, helping to support what their longer-term shelter and housing needs are going to be. We can also help support crisis counseling and disaster unemployment. These are just a few of the programs that we have. We have many more, and I encourage everyone to begin that process by registering now. Recovery from these fires is going to be complex. I've seen many disasters throughout my 4 years in this role. This is certainly one of the worst that I have seen. And the debris removal alone is going to be one of the major things that we have to accomplish, that the state has to accomplish to get this recovery journey started. And that's why when President Biden authorized 100% reimbursement for the first 180 days is really going to set the stage to jumpstart this recovery for these communities. I had a chance to drive through some of the communities that were impacted as well. And it's not just the homes that are lost. We've seen schools that have been destroyed, businesses, small businesses, religious institutions. These are things that we are going to be able to help with temporary facilities like temporary schools to help get children back into the schoolhouse, but also any other emergency measures as they begin the work of permanent repair. Thousands of homes have been destroyed, and we continue to hear the numbers change, but know that this is going to be a long-term recovery for all of these individuals that have been impacted. And as I told the governor and the mayor yesterday and today, I assured them that our programs, our staff, the entire federal family are going to be here with them, alongside them, helping them achieve the outcomes that they need to not just rebuild these communities, but also rebuild them in a way that's going to make them stronger and more resistant to the types of weather events that they have been experiencing. This recovery journey is going to be long, but we are going to be there with them to support them every step of the way. And with that, Karine, I'm happy to take some questions.
Thank you so much, Administrator. Go ahead, C.
Thanks, Karine. Thanks, Administrator. Hoping you could speak to whether your agency has enough money currently to fund the immediate response needs, or is there a need to go to Congress quickly to get additional funds? And then separately, 10 days out from the presidential transition, what steps are underway at FEMA to ensure that what has been done so far and what's going to be done in the coming days is sustained at the career level and beyond, into the new administration? Thank you.
Yeah, with the recent supplemental, FEMA received $27 billion. And so we are now able to continue to support the ongoing recovery efforts for all of the disasters that we've been supporting, to include now the immediate response and the initial recovery efforts that are going to be needed here in California. So we're very grateful for the bipartisan support from Congress to give us that additional funding so we can meet the needs of the individuals that have been impacted. And as far as going through the transition, we have an amazing, dedicated workforce of women and men that are going to be able to continue to support them. Our regional administrator here has worked many fires across several different administrations, and we are going to work day in and day out to continue to support them through the authorities that are given to us through the Stafford Act.
Thank you, Administrator, for taking our questions. I wonder, realistically, how quickly will people be able to obtain these temporary living quarters? What are you doing to set those up? Where are you setting them up? And how are you making sure to get in contact with people that may need those temporary shelters?
Yeah, so the first step that everybody needs to do, there's two things. They need to register for assistance with FEMA so they get in our system and we can continue to work with them on a case-by-case basis, because we know that everybody is going to have an individual and unique need, and they need to contact their insurance company, because their insurance company may also provide alternate living expenses. We have a suite of tools, and one of the biggest tools and the best resources we have is reimbursing individuals for either the hotel costs that they're experiencing right now, or if they find a place to rent, reimbursing them for rental assistance. Given where we're at right now, we know that there's going to be a lot of rental resources, and that's going to be the best resource and the best tool that we have to support the families that have been impacted. But we have other tools in our toolbox. And so, again, we want to work with everybody individually because we know that everybody's situation is going to be different, and we're going to apply the right tool for their particular situation.
Thank you, Administrator. I know you can't obviously put a dollar sign on this, but can you just help us put into perspective a bit how you think the cost of this may compare to the cost of other recent natural disasters? And I'm hoping you could also comment on some misinformation that's out there. We've seen these erroneous evacuation orders and how concerned you are that may lead to people to not responding to or not paying close enough attention to actual real alerts.
Yeah, it's really hard right now on the cost of the disaster to put a number on it because we haven't been able to assess how much of the infrastructure has been damaged. I mean, we know the thousands of homes that have been impacted, but the real cost of these disasters comes from how much of the actual infrastructure has been damaged, the roads, the water system, the power, but also the soft costs and the economic impact. We know that this is going to be billions. And so we really want to continue to focus right now on whatever we can do to continue to support California in getting this fire suppressed and starting this recovery process. And again, thanks to the bipartisan support of Congress, we have enough funding to support those recovery efforts and these response efforts. And as far as the misinformation and the alert that went out, I mean, we want to make sure people are getting timely and accurate information. And I will defer to the county for the specifics on what they're doing as far as that alert, but know that it's part of our wireless emergency alert platform that FEMA offers to state and locals, and we are providing technical assistance to them to make sure we can help them understand what happened and ensure that it doesn't happen again, because we have to be able to send out accurate information so we can give people the right information and they know to believe it.
Good job.
Thanks, Karine. Administrator, the President was referring in the Oval earlier and yesterday to, I guess, some misinformation about the fire hydrants. Can you just spell it out clearly? Is there a water shortage? Is there an issue with water? And if not, what's the issue?
Yeah, I mean, I would really defer to the city and the county for the specifics, but what I have been briefed is that it was an overload of the system, right? There were so many simultaneous fires that happened at once. There was multiple firefighting resources that were utilizing and using the water system to put out these fires, and it put a strain on the system. And it takes time for that system to then regenerate. But the specifics on it, I really just want to make sure that you talk with them. As we heard from, the Los Angeles City Fire Chief yesterday, they plan for this. They have other resources available with water tenders, and now we have the ability to fly the aircraft into these communities to help put that fire out. And so you talk about the multiple simultaneous fires that started, and it just put a strain on the system from my understanding.
Just one follow-up on the coordination with the incoming administration. Are you speaking to anyone yourself on the transition, and has the misinformation aspect come up in those discussions?
So we have a whole team dedicated to be working with the transition team, and they're providing regular briefings to them on a daily basis. And so we're providing whatever information that they ask for.
President Biden committed to 180 days of 100% match on recovery funds. Just technically, how is he able to commit to 6 months when he's only going to be in office for 10 more days? Is that locked in, or could that change if the next administration has a different idea?
This is a practice that many administrations have utilized to help support the immediate needs in the response to one of these major catastrophic disasters. And what we want to be able to do is recognize the catastrophic impact of that. And the president has the authority through the statute, through law, to be able to commit this amount of funding to support the recovery efforts. I would hope that we look at this, as I think Karine said earlier, that these are communities that have had a catastrophic impact, and that we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can as a federal family to support them on this recovery journey. The statute, the law, allows us to do exactly what we did and allows the president to make that determination, and this is what they need. They need this support in order to facilitate the recovery that's going to have to happen.
And just a quick follow, does that mean that it can't be rolled back?
I'm certain that, anybody can make a determination on if they want to do something or not, but this was done according to the statute, and I would think that the statute would say that this is the direction that needs to happen and that it shouldn't be rolled back.
This is Arlette Sines with CNN. In your conversations with any of the local officials, have any of them expressed concerns about the possibility that funding could be rolled back?
Well, I think I've gotten the question from several people about what's going to happen over the transition. And the same thing that I've said to you is that we have dedicated career women and men that have been supporting disaster response for everywhere around the country, not just this administration, but the previous administration and every administration before that. And the actions that we have taken in this administration are no different than the types of declarations that have happened before. And I want to assure them that the law, the Stafford Act, that gives us the authority to provide these declarations is one that has withstood since 1979, and we will continue to implement it as directed by the law.
Kelly.
Administrator Kelly O'Donnell from NBC. Do you have concerns about the inventory of available housing for people who've been displaced and for the length of time it would take for rebuilding? Obviously, it's going to be some time before you can even clear parcels that people may own or what have you. Do you see almost an extinction of some of these communities for a period of time?
So we're going to work with the state to understand what the housing stock is, because as I said, one of the best resources that we have is our rental assistance, and we want to get people into that longer term temporary situation as quickly as possible so they can continue on with their lives. We're going to have to do an assessment to see what the availability is and then determine if we're going to need to bring in other tools to help support the ongoing housing requirement for these communities. But know that our goal is to keep people in these communities. We do not want them to move far from their communities. This is where they work. This is where their schools are. This is where their family, their religious institutions are. And so our goal is to find everything we can as close to their communities so they can keep the community part of them intact, right? The houses and the buildings might be gone, but the community stays, right? That community spirit will always be there. And so that is what our goal is, and that's what we'll work with the state and the county to achieve.
In the back, go ahead.
Thanks, Karine. Thanks, Administrator. The President previewed that the death toll was likely to increase. Does the federal government have a handle on how many missing people there are, as well as any advice you have for people dealing with air quality issues at the moment?
So I didn't hear the second question, but to answer the first question, that's something I would have to defer to the state. All of those numbers come from the coroner to determine the number of fatalities, and the number missing is something that they'll track. We're just going to continue to support them if they need resources to help with that. And then what was your second question?
Just about advice that you would have for people dealing with air quality issues in the area?
With their what issues?
Air quality issues in the area.
Oh, air quality.
What's your
Air quality
advice
issues.
to folks on the
Again, listening to your local officials, there's definitely air quality issues around the area. And, you know, the beauty of the wind dying down is that they can get better control over the fires, but it also doesn't blow the smoke out. And so there are definitely a lot of concerns from across the area here about what the air quality is going to look like. And so they need to make the decisions that's best for them. And I know that the departments of public health at both the county and the state are providing information and guidance, and I would have them listen to them for what the best resources are for them to protect themselves from the air quality impacts from these fires.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Administrator. I'm curious, as you're briefing the incoming administration, are there specific steps you are recommending that they take in this response, given how long-term it's likely going to be?
Yeah, that's something that, I mean, our career staff that are here on the ground in California that are going to be back at headquarters, they will continue to work through all of the requirements to support the recovery efforts. And as the incoming administration comes on board, we will give them an update as to where we're at with the status and any challenges that we're finding and the direction and the vision that we need to do to achieve the governor, the mayor's outcomes for this disaster recovery, but all of the disaster recoveries, right? We had 179 disaster declarations just last year alone. And so our team that has been working these day in and day out for the last 4 years will continue to do so within the new administration.
Okay, last question.
Thank you, Karine. So as the rebuilding gets underway, will there be any requirements around fire-resistant building materials to be used and other safety measures that, you know, construction crews should adhere to?
I just want to make sure I heard the question. As the rebuilding begins, are there going to be requirements on how they rebuild? Did I hear that right? I'm sorry.
Yes, on fire resistance.
Yes, fire resistance.
Yeah, so one of the things that we can do to help support these communities is we do have mechanisms through our mitigation programs, whether that's in the public infrastructure that's getting rebuilt or through our hazard mitigation grants that the state can offer. As they rebuild, we want them to rebuild in a way that helps make them more fire resistant. And so we encourage the use of that flexibility within our authorities to make sure that these communities are stronger to face any future events that they might see like this.
Okay. All right, Administrator, since we have 10 days left, I wanted to be sure to say thank you so much for your service. It's been an honor to work with you. Please stay safe in California. And again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Karine. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, I have actually two more things, and then I'll get to questions. So I'll quickly turn to